Welcome to the Vortex. I'm your host, Kathleen Pitt, and I have a beautiful guest here with me today, Tiffany. Tiffany is a spiritual guide, somatic embodiment teacher, sensual activist, which I can't wait to discover like that term. That already like brings up so much for me. Intimacy mentor and psychedelic integration specialist with a focus on repairing one's relationship to mind, body, and spirit after trauma. She's the creator of the Sensual Magic Method and the producer of her own show, CleoCatra's Cabaret. I can't wait to get into everything that Tiffany's doing, how she's connecting people back to their body and life and intimacy. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's interesting to hear those things back at me. That's like, wow, I have ticked a lot of boxes. Sometimes I forget. I'm like, no, girl, you're doing great.
Oh my gosh, how could you forget? I was like going through your stuff. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like sometimes I get clients, they're so amazing and beautiful and qualified. And they're like, I have this certification and this certification and this certification. And I'm like, that is like, I don't think you understand like how incredible that is. And also how impactful that is for the people that you work with, right? Like all of
Yeah.
the things that you do and what you bring to the table. So let's talk about what you bring to the table. Like, what like all those fancy terms for people who like don't know like what somatic is or like embodiment, all those things, psychedelic integration. Like, let's just start with your story. Like, who are you? How did you get involved in this work? And like, how did you get all those like credentials behind your name?
Yeah, thank you so much. Breaking it down, the easiest way to convey what I do is like I help people reconnect mind and body and spirit through dance and through connection to sensations in their body and their emotions in their body. And a lot of my journey was that like I was living completely numb and disconnected from my body. I was incredibly disconnected from my pleasure. And I noticed that when I was going through really traumatic experiences when I was younger, the thing that really helped keep my spirit alive and not feel defeated and not feel like overcome was music. And it like
Mm.
really gave me such a beautiful outlet. And before I was in the somatic field, before I was in trauma recovery, I was like, there's something to this connection.
Yeah.
It's something beyond my mind. I can't conceptualize why I move the way that I move and what beats make me move and why and how good it feels or the
Yeah,
emotions
yeah,
that
yeah.
come with it. Like it's dance is such a when you really surrender and give yourself to it, it's such a full body experience, spiritual body included. And so I became so passionate about that. I was like, I'm not trained as a dancer, but I want to go around the world. I want to teach people about this connection.
Yeah.
And as I started to explore my own healing and what I needed for myself, these were all things I needed for my journey. Um, it just became, I was like, oh my gosh, somatics, it's a thing. Okay, like somatic healing and somatic experience, that's a thing. Now I had like
Yeah.
terms to
And
speak
now it's
into what I was
becoming like
doing.
more of a thing too. Like you say the
Yeah,
word somatic like 5 years ago, at least from my perspective, like I came from the medical field and like I knew what somatic meant in a medical terminology, but like to put it into like therapy or integration or that type of thing, that wasn't really a thing, right? It was just like
yeah.
somatic equals this. So now it's, a modality.
Yeah, it's a modality. It's like really coming from this connection of connection to your body and connection to your felt sense, which is an innately more feminized, feminine role, right? You drop into it, you surrender to it, you give yourself to it. And I love it because it's an incredibly sensual experience, like talking about like activism and stuff, to put on something that you know brings pleasure to your body for the sake of it bringing pleasure to your body.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. Like that's
I'm doing
yeah.
this for literal rapture and joy. This is for me. It's for,
Which
nothing
is
else.
so uncomfortable for so many people. Like to even say like I'm worthy of pleasure or like I'm worthy
Yeah.
of joy, right? Like I'm doing this
Mhm.
for myself because I deserve to have it.
Yeah, and it feels good. And
Yeah.
like it feels safe to feel good. A lot of people have a disconnection from pleasure for some reason, one reason or another. And it's like, oh, pleasure all of a sudden became unsafe. And I think a lot of that has to do with like society conditioning and stuff as well. It's like it's not safe to be in our bodies. And we can think of a ton of reasons why that could be true.
Sure.
But also like when we lean into like, oh, but what if my pleasure is safe? And not only what if is my pleasure safe, but is it so powerful that I can literally change my life, my circumstances, anything you really want by connecting into your pleasure. And so
Yeah.
that's like such an advocate for that. Like, why would you not choose that? You
Yeah.
know, if
So
that's
that kind
available to you, let's go. Let's figure this out.
I don't know. We could spend like a whole like thesis paper on why people don't do that. Like that is
Oh my
like
God.
masochism at its finest. But so you say, okay, so you're dancing and you're like, this feels good. Like, let me explore why dance feels good. And then of course you end up on like somatic integration and therapy and that type of thing. And so then you're using the term activist. I love that, like intimacy activist, right? Is that the terms you use? So like explain that a little bit more. Like to be like intimate, to like connect, like connecting women to their intimacy is not a new thing that I've seen, especially like in the work online that I do. But to be an intimacy activist, like that is I love that. I want to know where you have Aquarius in your chart, but it's like that is like disruptive. You know what I mean? It's like that is something that is like to be actively campaigning for people and women, especially or men too, to connect with that intimate part of themselves, to embrace intimacy. Like that is a disruptive language, and I love it. So, what does that mean to you? And like, how did you get there?
Yeah, I've always had a wild heart for sure, like a bit of that rebellious spirit. And
Mhm.
I'm definitely I'm a truth seeker. And so I even if I wanted to, I couldn't possibly believe in just one thing.
Mhm.
I just really believe in the element of spirit, and there's something governing all of this that is a greater power than myself.
Yeah.
And I get to come and play and experience this realm through my senses and through my connection, and recognizing how easy it can be to utilize sensuality to come back to like the present moment. So in the moments where I'm confused, things are a bit chaotic, I can drop into my senses and I'm like, boom, I'm right back in the present moment. So it's really grounding.
Mm.
And I became a massive activist for sensuality for that first, because I was like, no, the power in our senses and the way that our unique nervous systems respond to our environment are all very different.
Right.
And so there's different things available through our senses that go, no, girl, you're safe. Yeah, you heard that, that twig in the woods break and like could have been a bear, but like when you tune into your senses, you're like, oh no, I'm safe, right? It's like how
Yeah.
we okay, there's no threat here. And I'm coming from a perspective where I so deeply want people to feel more safe in their bodies in general. Like I think the world needs
Yeah.
that. I think the world needs like, the antidote to stress to me is like sensuality and movement and music and coming back to these like innate characteristics of who we are and how we can possibly move in the world.
Yeah.
And that led me into intimacy because I'm like, well, in order to do that, I've got to get really intimate with myself and ask myself a lot of really serious questions that I might not have the answer for, but I need to know so that I can feel liberated in my pleasure and in how I want to show up in the world, which is naturally activating. I'm a natural activator.
Yeah.
And I want to do that and I want to feel safe to do that. And I want to impact people's lives in this way that's like a little bit of a bomb going off because that's my method, that's my magic. And so once I was like, whoa, I started tasting that. And then I started like drinking that. And then I started living that energy. And when I look back 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, it's that work. It's like the crux of all of that and bringing like spirit and science together to create really transformative experiences. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I will root for that all day, every day. I'm out here on the
Yeah.
front lines, like it's so powerful and it's literally already within us. And a lot of people just feel stuck and all they need is somebody to bring that out, somebody to go, it's okay for you to feel playful, even if you're
Yeah.
stressed. It's okay for you to be playful and be scared at the same time. Like people just need
Yes.
that to drop the armor and remember what it's like to feel free and innocent.
Yeah, and kind of embrace that like childlike joy almost. Like I work with high achievers, so like a lot of them, their lower chakras are blocked, right? Like the safety,
Mm-hmm.
security, the creativity, and the power. And they are like operating from this like high anxiety state. And it's like, okay, like go back to what made you feel safe as a kid. Like you don't have, it doesn't have to be like grandiose. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a hobby. Like, did you like riding your bike? Did you like going for a
Yeah.
walk? Like, did you like coloring, like with did you like crowns or colored pencils? Like even just starting there. And then that in itself, like too, as I'm saying it out loud, it's like that is an intimate relationship with self, like being vulnerable enough with your inner child and like that point of yourself to experience the joy, to experience the playfulness and like reconnect yourself back to that love. I mean, ultimately it's like love, right? Like how do I love myself, or how do I love others? How do I deepen the love and relationship with myself?
Yeah. And I feel for so many people in the medical field because there's certain professions where you kind of have to become a bit disembodied and disconnected from that part of yourself because it will impact your ability to do your job, you know?
Yeah,
And so even
effectively.
just having some like empathy and awareness of like, oh, okay, this could be impacting me, and being able to do that work for yourself, that's like, how can I take care of myself and take care of other people at the same time?
Right. Yeah. That's like almost, I mean, that's the whole crux of the medical system at this time is like currently that does not exist, right? Like it's
Right.
literally put all of your needs at the back burner and burn yourself out. And then what's even worse, like, sorry, I'll get on my soapbox here, is it's like it's your identity. If you spend all of this money on your degree to become an MD, DO, NP, PA, or whatever, even, RN or like CNA, RT. I'm leaving people out. I'm sorry, but if you like work in the medical field, like it is your identity. Like this is what you went to school for, and you're basically been told like this is your job and this is what you're here for. Now you like will find out as you go along the path that you have transferable skills that you can move into a different like, dynamic if you desire to. But the point is that when it becomes your identity, when you get stuck in that loop, when you have to disassociate from your body, it like puts you in that state of fight or flight almost permanently, unless you are brave enough
Hmm.
to step out or find somebody like you that connects them back to that intimacy of self.
Yeah, and it's without knowing, it's not even recognizing that trauma response is your waking state. Like that's your baseline.
Yeah.
And it's not through like connecting to the body that people start to realize it's like, oh, I'm operating at like a -6 out of the gates, so no
Yeah.
wonder the littlest thing just like makes me feel wrecked, or no wonder I'm chronically exhausted. And I think that, I love how I feel like just, with psychedelic space, things are expanding. And I feel like that's the conversation is a part of that.
Yeah.
But
Let's talk
also
about
just
that. Let's get
seeing
into you said what, psychedelic integration? Like
integration.
let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. I'm so excited because I was literally dancing before our call and just getting all these messages. And it's like there are so many other allies to our bodies out there that are not as available yet because they've been criminalized or stigmatized.
Mm,
But there's like a movement happening to expand that because there's so many benefits to exploring these plant allies. And I'll even say like cannabis. Like cannabis is like a journey
yeah.
that I've been working with for a while. I'm creating protocols for it, which are just like programs where you get to experience the medicine of it curated to what it is you're looking to explore.
Right.
But it's like it's going beyond like seeing the things that we're experiencing in our body, like disconnection or fatigue or burnout, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Not seeing it as a symptom of something, but actually being like, what can I do for my entire body, my entire selves, in
Right.
order to recover and
Because it's kind of
uh,
like it's just like burnout or fatigue or exhaustion. It's like your body's telling you something. Your body's always talking to you.
yeah,
Your body's always trying to
yeah,
tell you what it needs, what's missing. And it's like if you can develop that relationship, it's so interesting because all your titles and things we're talking about seem individual, but they all go together, right? So it's like when you can develop that relationship with self, when you can listen, when you become intimate and to, have the play and the joy, what's your body saying to you? What is it talking about? What do you need? And then like I'd love to hear like you're talking about plant allies, like how do you integrate those in? And what can they be used for? What plant allies are you talking about? The people want to know.
yeah. I think that there's still so much like exploration to be had in the
Sure.
psychedelic space, and I'm appreciating where consciousness is at in terms of its curiosity. I feel like more and more people are opening up to the idea More
Mhm.
and more people, bless the medical system's heart, but are feeling also failed by that because it's failing its own people. It's failing its own
Sure.
employees, you know? So
Yeah.
finding a more natural or an alternative way to explore ourselves and oops, excuse me, why we relate to the world the way that we do
Yeah.
is is becoming a louder question in people's minds. And I've worked with cannabis, I've worked with LSD, I've worked with ketamine,
Hmm.
MDMA. I've done bufo. I'm not going to be doing anything with bufo particularly, but
Hmm.
there's all these different, psychedelic entheogen allies that are beautiful for, I mean, each has their own magic. Like the thing I love about working with cannabis in general is that it's pretty easily accessible. Like no
Sure.
matter where you are these days, you have access to it in different varieties. And
Do you mind if
there's
I ask
something,
where you live?
I'm in Mexico City currently.
Oh, is it decriminalized there or legal there?
Cannabis has been decriminalized. Yeah. They're kind of in this
Okay.
like in between grayish area around like
Yeah.
what they're going to do with it. It's still like very onset, but it has been decriminalized.
Yeah. I'm in Michigan. It's legal here. So we're talking about access. Like, yeah, it's very accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to the store, even if you're in a state that doesn't, you're in close proximity to it. Like it's just everywhere. And it's such a grounding medicine. Like for me, I see the spirit of cannabis as very feminine.
Hmm.
And I think that she really loves to flirt. And she likes to flirt with you and she likes to tease you, especially through music and beats and different ways of connecting. Like there's a
Yeah.
dance that happens with her in general. And she's great at just kind of like taking up this mental top layer and just exposing a little bit more clarity, I find in my life.
Yeah. Interesting. She makes me very sleepy. She puts me right to bed. She goes, go
Yeah,
to
right.
sleep.
And
There's
that's the
no
thing about,
dancing. There's no play. It's good night.
yeah. And that's the thing. She's so expensive, like with different strains, and especially since legalization has really altered the chemistry of how you
Yeah.
can receive it.
Yeah.
Each cannabinoid works different with different parts of our bodies. And so something that could hype me up could knock you out. But
Yeah.
that's why I love like, okay, what's the energy and like what does that particular ally have for you? So if you aren't sleeping, because you've got kids and then you're smoking, she's like, here you go, sister. I'm just gonna coat you in a blanket of
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
deep rest. And you wake up like, yes, okay. So yeah, it's like seeing these things and how they interact with our bodies and how they also
Mm.
like touch upon our edges, like emotionally or
Mm.
pains in our bodies. They're really great for getting in there and getting beneath the surface. And I really believe that when we can trust anything, it doesn't have to be a plant ally, it can be ourselves, that our ability to kind of go into those more challenging experiences naturally becomes a little bit softer and a little
Sure.
bit easier. And so if these are tools and allies to help us go into those like deep fears that are really in somewhat like way paralyzing us from feeling free, like
Yeah.
that energy of feeling stuck. It's like, why do I feel stuck though? And when we, put on our spiritual lens, we're like, but I'm abundant and I have this house and I have a perfect partner and I'm drinking cacao, and it's like, no, but that energy is there. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
They help us go beneath the surface to explore that in different ways that then we can integrate, we can bring into our everyday life in order to shift our lifestyle
Sure. Yeah.
towards
So
a
it's
more
like,
liberated, more whole state, really.
yeah, like another, I mean, it's basically another tool in the toolbox, right? Like which
Yeah.
every modality is, every like psychedelic or integrated medicine, like it's all another modality to integrate the shadow or to bring light to the shadow, which I do want to talk about a little bit because you have done, I know you've done a lot of shadow work because your stuff is disruptive. Like you talk about intimacy. Like what is your it's sexprayers.com with
Sex
you and your
prayers,
partner,
yeah.
is that correct? I'm assuming he's your
Yeah.
partner. If not, you got
Hmm.
a great like business, guy that you're hanging out with. But it's like you're talking about like sex and intimacy and the Holy Trinity and like getting into
Yeah.
communion with God in that like intimate relationship. Like that being online with that I know you've done shadow work, right? Because you have had to
Yeah.
bring things and bring it to light and shed the light on the shadow and integrate. And it's like all these things, all these like titles that we said at the beginning, they're amazing. And it's all about the integrating the shadow. It's all about like bringing out who you innately are and like what your gift is to bring to the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
So
important,
have you
I
done
get
shadow
censored
work?
doing it. Yeah, right. It's like I get censored trying to re-educate people around like what's possible in terms of connection with themselves, their bodies,
Yeah.
the world around them, the spirit realms, like everything. And yeah, I constantly have to do shadow work because every time I get shadow banned on IG, I'm like, this is just a part of the process of doing the work. Like you've got a strong backbone. We're just going to pivot and find other ways. So that's why even in Sex Spirits, we've created our own community that's an uncensored space where we
Yeah.
can talk about intimacy and we can write the word sex and not, risk persecution by the internet gods. It's just one of those things that we continue to build. And for me, I love shadow work. Like for me, when I connect to the goddess, my natural goddess is a dark goddess. And I think,
Sure.
I connect with this more Lilith energy, which was like she was outcast for her sexuality. And I see how much of society, men and women, all genders, are fighting with that. Like we're
Oh my
fighting so
gosh.
many
Yeah.
battles anyways, but then there's like this whole identity battle and the layers of that on top of it. Like
Right.
absolutely not. So creating platforms where I can talk about those things and I can remind people of their power, of their flirtatious nature, of their curiosity, and being a disruptor and having these brands that are like, we're intentionally putting it in your face because we want to talk
Yeah.
about how your sex and prayer create powerful change. Like we
Right.
want to talk about that.
I mean, it's got, I
People
mean,
want
that is like, yeah, and that is disruptive. That is the thing, like that's going to catch people's eye. That's going to like move the collective forward. That's going to spark interesting conversations. Like I get shadow banned all the time when I speak light language. And it's like not even the word sex, it's like just a different
that. Oh my God.
frequency. And it's like, no. So, it just is what it is. I work in the quantum field, so I basically am like knowing that it's going to resonate and find who it's meant for in whatever capacity it's meant for. But it is like the ego gets in the way where it's like, oh my gosh, like now my engagement's down for the week or whatever. But
Yeah.
letting the ego get out of the way and just knowing that it's going to find who it's meant for. Like when you have a disruptive message like that, and you know that it is about connecting back to source or God, universe, whatever you want to call it, like you cannot fail, right? Like that's what I preach all the time. It's like when you have a soul mission and purpose that you know that you were sent here for, to do, to expand, to move through, the universe will support you. It just is. It's just the law of the world. So first of all, just keep doing what you're doing. People got to know that. But to like for the person who doesn't know like what shadow work is, like I have my definition, but I'd love to hear like how you'd explain that to a potential client coming to work for you, or like, what do you mean I have to embody my shadow? Like there's no
Mm.
shadow. Like what is it? So how would you explain that to somebody?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I look at shadow work as the ability to go in to the deepest, darkest crevices of myself, the innermost parts of myself, where I feel fear or I feel doubt or shame or guilt, any of these emotions that tend to keep me stuck in my body.
Right.
And it's this process of I really feel where people's fears are at, where I see them on the collective, because I was at this place where I didn't want to do that work. And even now that I've done shadow work, I'm like, yeah, ignorance is a bit of bliss, but I wouldn't trade it for the knowledge that I have now and the ways that I'm able to support people. So it's
Right.
also an interesting journey because it exposes that. It shows you where some of your behaviors and patterns and thoughts aren't really yours. They were just adopted energetically, in our most primitive years, that when we think about the things that keep us from feeling free or experiencing joy or pleasure in our bodies, whatever stories are attached to that, I see that as a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And something that came to me on like an LSD journey last year was I really got this picture of psychic warfare, and I see these things as, I call them infraction points, or that's how it was given to me, is that from a young age, we are constantly, the second we're born, we're exposed to things that we can see and not see, right? There's other realms of existence. Light
Right.
language is one of them. And from right away, we're receiving all these beautiful codes, but we're also receiving all the fear and all the shame and all the dogma and stigma, and I call them infraction points, and they just start as these tiny little pinholes in our psyche that destroy our connectivity. And then the more those pinholes are fed, the more that source is fed, the more it starts to destroy that connection.
Yeah.
And so being in a space where we can see that for what it is, start to actually self-identify with what feels true for us, is the shadow work. It's like bringing all of that fear and doubt and guilt or anything that perpetuates feeling not enough or inadequate, or incapable, and bringing it into heart coherence. It's like, yes, you feel that way, and I fucking love you right now.
Yeah.
And like, I believe in you right now. And so changing that literally into darkness, into something of light that then we cast out naturally, because
Hmm.
our essence change. We become more radiant, we become more vibrant, we're more outspoken when we're in that energy. So for
Yeah.
me, that's shadow work. And I use music as a gateway because it is the easiest way to do the work, in my opinion. You don't have to talk about it. You just get to
Yeah.
close your eyes and just like let go. Like there is
Yeah.
nothing better to me than that.
100%. I did a breathwork session last night, and like at the end of it, I like it was really powerful. So like she has some trauma to her neck, and so they like wouldn't allow me to touch her neck. So I was working energetically while she was doing breath work, and of course like playing music very loud. And as I'm doing this breathwork session, I see her ancestors like go into her lower half of her body, and they're pulling, like it's like all these grandmothers like pulling stuff out, and I'm just like guiding it out, right? Like I'm just allowing it to move through her and through the portal. And I'm really focused on this lower half of her body, and I'm moving this energy with her ancestors. And then I step back, allow them to do their work, and I sit down looking at her lower half of her body, and I know intuitively that that energy has moved, right? And then pause, I take a big breath, and I look at her face, and she's streaming tears, streaming tears, streaming tears, just crying, 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 right?
Mm,
And I was like, okay, and then we, modified, helped her, whatever, moving. And at the end of it, she says, I couldn't tell if energy was moving, and she's not like super woo woo. So this was like her first experience with brother. She's like, I couldn't tell if energy was moving or if the music was so powerful because it was so
mm.
loud. And I was like, well, let me tell you what I experienced and saw. And it probably was both. Like it probably, like breath work obviously allows your body to focus or your mind to focus on something. The music is the gateway to like letting yourself get into that vulnerable emotional state almost. And then the energy work moving with her. So it's like, again, another tool in the toolbox, and getting people into whatever way like you can get in. If it's music,
Yeah.
if it's a psychedelic, if it's breath work, if it's somatic therapy or embodiment, like whatever it is, like we are now getting the tools in our toolboxes as integrative, holistic, light work practitioners to help the collective move their energy out and forward and shine light on that shadow, like shine light on those pieces of yourself that have been dark and hidden and ashamed and fearful and scared. Like I'm just like my spirit guides work like this when I do podcast or like coaching, is they just start channeling, and I'm like, I think they got it. They got the synonyms, like to keep going. But that is just like those adjectives or those synonyms to describe what that person is feeling like. I just feel like now we're as a light worker, holistic practitioner, whatever you want to call it, now gaining like momentum because we have these tools in our toolbox to move things along.
Yeah, and it's the other thing that I want to just like make so clear for everybody, because I think it can be so easy to really be in our own like narcissistic selves, like bless that part of our ego. But when we really look at shadows, like, yeah, we have shadows, but there's such a collective shadow. And I
Mm,
feel like when people can understand that what they're experiencing isn't just me, myself, and I, and like be a victim to it, we're all under the influence of
yeah.
that. And so there's like this element of like beauty and self-compassion that I feel we can bring back to ourselves in those moments. That's like, um, yeah, that election got me like, whoo, okay, whatever the story is,
Yeah.
that's like, okay, great. I'm not the only one experiencing this. And so rather than hold on to it and start to identify with it, even what you're saying, like with
Mm,
in the medical profession, it's like I'm identified, by this thing because that's the path I chose. And some people can find it hard to break out of that and recognize within that skill set, like what you're saying, there's all these other paths available. You just have to
Yeah.
create that for yourself. People forget that because they're so under the collective shadow of, I have no power, right?
Mm.
I have no
Yeah.
power. I have to obey this thing. Like, what? Like, where? Let's start to question that a little bit, because I'm on the outside, have my own challenges for sure, but I'm on the outside. I'm like, I'm doing it. So I'm a
Yeah.
representative that it's so possible and necessary. Like, we need the inside and the outside to be like working together. That's like, okay, if something isn't working, rather than just talk about how we want change, like, what is it that we have to change within our own lives to
Right.
support
Because if there's a collective shadow, there's also a collective light, right? Like you can,
that?
everybody has the power to shift the frequency of everything around them. So I love teaching this in my programs, but Peter Sage identified like 4 levels of consciousness. So there's to me consciousness, where it's like everything's happening to me. Woe is me. I can't believe I'm late. I can't believe I didn't sleep last night. I can't believe this, da 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 da, right? Then there's by me consciousness. By me is where like 80% of self-help books are, or like the coaching industry is like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hustle harder. I can make things happen. I can move, 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 move. And like that works up to a point, but it does end up leaving people in burnout because they may be working against the grain, or like not really, again, doing the shadow work and bringing these fears to light, or bringing their pain into their power. Then there's through me consciousness, which is where you are a vessel for the divine. Like you basically, things channel through you. This is like lucky girl syndrome. Like I got, oh wow, I can't believe that. Or like, oh wow, my coffee's hot again. Like it's been so good. Like da da da. I can't, oh, good things always happen to me. Wow. And then there's
Divine
as
flow.
me consciousness. And as me consciousness is when you recognize the absolute power you have over your situation, your life, and your experience. And everything in your external world is a mirror of your internal reality. So how is that world responding to you? And if it's a mirror of your internal reality up into this point, what are you going to do to shift it? And like you have the power to create literally every single thing in your external reality and purpose. And that is like, I could talk about that forever, because a lot of people, like you're saying, that collective shadow, that to me consciousness is happening to me. I can't believe it. What am I going to do about it? I can't do anything about it. Like, no, you are so fucking powerful. Like, do the thing that makes you feel empowered. Connect with your intimacy, connect with your sensuality. Like, get yourself into a position where you feel powerful and move as that version of you. That's powerful.
Yeah, like sovereign will. Like, that is what God has given us. Like, God has given us the ability to choose. Like,
Yeah.
that is the freedom that we really have. And so being able to see where within one's life they are powerful, even if it's a sliver of power, to
Yeah.
feed that energy and to use that and to lean into the experience of literally crafting your identity from who it is that you want to be and what you want in the world. um the up levels, like, I said,
Yeah.
that's an understatement, but like the ways that life changes and the way that we start to view life from a different lens, one of like more love naturally and more compassion and more general care,
Yeah.
it is transformative. And we need more people doing that, like
Sure.
sober spaces, psychedelic spaces, medical spaces, underground spaces. Like, even like even the psychedelic movement has its own shadow, so even
Sure.
for as
Yeah.
deep healing as it is, there is a shadow to it, and there are people that see that energy and manipulate it or use it for purposes other than its intended connection point. And like, we learn and we grow through that. And so it's like, I don't want people afraid of shadow work, because the point isn't to stay there and isn't to live there, it's to bring it up and
100.
out, so that the next time that thing comes in your life that triggers that fear, you're that much more equipped to continue to choose yes for yourself.
Yeah. And you said it like at the beginning, the merge of like science and spirituality, like call it subconscious rewiring, call it like shadow work, call it like trauma therapy, like talk therapy, whatever. Like, again, tools in the toolbox. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
have, like, it's not about being in a perpetual healing state. It's about finding what works best for you to embody that sense of self, that love, that self love. And I want to talk like about your like mission. You've talked about your titles and what you do and how you work with people, but like you have a beautiful business. Like I was looking at it before we started. You run retreats, right? You do
Yeah.
one-on-one coaching. Like I'm gonna stop. You tell us like what you're doing, how you do it, and why it's so beautiful to work with you, like why it's so beautiful to have that like that intimacy and that connection and like connecting, like when you, it's almost like when you connect, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's almost like when you connect to self, when you connect to your intimate nature, you're connecting to God, like you're connecting to that God consciousness too. Like it's all the kind of the same. I'll let you speak about it though. Like tell us about like your beautiful business and like how you work with women or men or what do you do?
Yeah. It is that. Like such deep reverence and love for yourself is touching God. It's touching like this part of you that can really like never die. And I'm addicted to that. Like
Good.
I have a spiritual addiction and that's what it is. It's like communing with the creator and create and the powers that help me tap into my power and my ability to do the things that I want to do with my life personally. Like I'm a pleasure seeker and I love
Mhm.
that about myself. And in working with women, it's just, being as a woman coming from trauma, I see the need for, and really deep desire for
Mhm.
women to want to come back to loving themselves in any stage, to feel powerful in their sexuality, to feel discerning in their sexuality, to feel connected to their pleasure, their orgasm, to be able to let the breeze like literally turn them on and drop into eroticism.
Yeah.
Women want that. They don't, even
Yeah,
if
we
they don't
do.
know, they're like, you're talking about how the breeze is giving you an orgasm. I want that, you know?
Sign
Um,
me up.
I've got you covered.
Ah.
Um, and and also with men, because men have a big disconnection from their bodies as well. And I feel that they are in a journey of exploring their emotions right now collectively, and that's bringing them to their body. And to help both and all parties feel safe, that their emotions are safe, that it's just an experience, that it has something for them that will continue to grow them on their path. I want to be the safety while they find their own safety.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's this container. And if you vibe with me, then you're going to trust me to take you where we need to go
Yeah.
because I'm just that good at it. And
Right. Own that
being able
shit.
to
Hell yeah.
extract that. Yeah, just
Yeah.
being able to extract that, to find pleasure in that, to find joy in that. Like in my sessions, both my retreats, my workshops, my one-on-one, I'm very flirtatious in nature, and that's intentional. It's like,
Mm.
even if we're doing shadow work, I want you to know like you have the power here. It can be easy to switch back into like, oh yeah, this isn't that serious. Yes, I'm doing deep work, but if I over identify with it, then I'm caught. I'm a victim again,
Yeah.
So by
That's so
creating safe
pretty. Yeah.
spaces, using music and movement to connect men and women and all genders to themselves, so that when they start to connect with each other, they innately feel more safe and they feel more curious, more of that
Mhm.
like childlike playfulness that you were saying, and doing in ways that help us evolve our intimacy so we can feel more safe in our communities
Yeah.
and attract more of like that love and that unity that we're looking for. So in Mystic Mentorship, I'm working with women specifically through sensuality and sexuality to expand them into those deeper pleasure states and to
Yeah.
liberate shame and guilt that they feel around their beauty or their bodies or their sex. And I mostly do that in sober spaces, and I'm starting to introduce it in a psychedelic setting. So we can also explore what it's like to meet yourself in that energy and in
Sure.
that realm. And my partner and I with Sex Prayers are doing the retreats, and we're working with singles to help them really do that inner intimate work so
Mm-hmm.
that they're not chasing love, but attracting it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get it, they're actually able to keep it because they were
Enjoy it.
given and the tools. So we really want to build like we chuckle a little bit, but there is a serious like we want to build like a church of sex prayers, and we want there to be a ministry where people are going out and they're teaching other people how to correctly be intimate with one
Yeah.
another
Oh my God,
through
it's done.
emotional conversation, through exercises and exploration. Like
Yeah,
We
that's like
want
a deep need. Like you can like, I mean, there'll be a big hurdle to get through with the word church, but there is a deep
to.
need for that. Like even like sex education, like, oh, we could talk about that for another hour. But I want to know, like, how did you meet your partner? Like, was this an innate work? Are we guys both doing this work? And when you were like, hey, I vibe with you, like, because it is obviously like deeply sexual and deeply intimate. And then you
Yeah.
are like together with someone that like being in like I could never be in business with my husband, which he's got his own shadow work he needs to do. Some people can be in business with their partner, some people can't. I cannot. So like there's like that other side too of like, well, if your work is like intimacy and sex and like relationship and pleasure, like how do y'all keep that going? How'd you meet? Come on. That's what the people really want to know. What's
Yeah.
going on
We'll
there?
spill the tea on that. Yeah. It's interesting, I think about like the work relationship dynamic because I've had challenge with it. I'm like, man, when my intimacy, good or bad, is the work that I'm also trying to teach and offer other people, like,
Yeah,
whew, it can be exhausting. Like it is a portal. Um, and that's where I think a lot of like personal practices have to come in, where I have to start to show up for myself and my individual identity as well.
sure.
And it takes work. Like it's not easy, but like you see the videos, and if you've ever been in our spaces, when you're in our space, the connection that we have and our ability to co-facilitate and work
Hmm.
the room and touch on all these different parts of people and their bodies and their connection, it's we're so made to do that together.
Sure. Yeah.
We're so made for it. So it's like, oh, okay, this is what we signed up for. Like
Easy. Yeah.
as a unit, as union, like this is what we're here to learn for ourselves and deepen in our own personal practice. And then literally turn right around and go, here you go. Here's what we're learning. Are you going through this too? Like
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we can help you, maybe
Yeah.
you can learn from us. Um, so having that, and our story is so it's so spiritual because I was in this place. I was in Guatemala for 3 years before being in
Mhm.
Mexico City. And we met at a coffee shop for like 10 minutes and not on each other's radar, weren't attracted to each other, but we had both done a retreat recently. And so I was
Mhm.
asking him, like making jokes about, oh, yeah, so how do you relate now? Because that's kind of the running joke for me of this particular retreat is people go in monogamous and they leave with no fucking clue.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing like, maybe I'm this,
Yeah.
and so I was teasing him and I was like, yeah, okay. How do you relate now? And so we had a deep conversation on like our values and what it was that like we were seeking in partnership in life and what we wanted to do. And it was super brief. And then we were like, okay, see you later. Like he was
Yeah.
there with mine. And
Okay.
so
That was quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
like cool, bye.
Yeah. Speed dating,
And
but like for real.
for real, like cosmic
Yeah.
speed dating, like I'm literally gonna put you two in the cafe. You're gonna have a conversation. You're not gonna think about each other after this for like a
Yeah.
while. And I just remember thinking, because I was in a phase of my life where I knew partnership was next, but where I was locationally, I was like, I'm not going to find it in the community here. And then it
Right.
was funny because then we meet at this cafe. And then 6 months after that, we meet up again in Mexico and everything was different. Our energy towards each other
Mhm.
was different. And I remember thinking after our conversation at the coffee house, I was like, wow, thank you, God, for showing me that what I want is out there and
Yeah.
that it's not lost. And so, like, because my conversation with him was like, oh my God, there's faith in mankind. Like, yes, okay, like it's happening. Like, girl, it's
When I
okay. Just
saw,
keep doing your
yeah.
work, keep doing your work, doing your things. And then 6 months later, we meet, and it was like we were just so meant to reconvene, and all the chemistry was there, and everything that we needed to, yeah, like fall in love with each other and find each other. And like, sex prayers was a download from our actual sexual connection one day. We got the
Nice.
whole vision, we got everything. And so,
You guys are having some good sex, which I would
oh my gosh.
expect from a sex
Yes,
prayer intimacy mentor. But if you're
yeah,
getting spiritual downloads during sex, like it's going well.
it's going
Guys,
really
she
good.
practices what she preaches. Okay.
I
I got
do.
to tell you really quick. I want to interrupt though. I want to tell you this story because I met my husband and I was actually with someone else and I looked at him and we had a quick exchange. He helped, like, we were having a house party. There was like a famous band playing. I was living with my boyfriend at the time and my husband was like a random stranger at our house party and he took me to the concert because my boyfriend didn't want to go. He was playing beer pong, couldn't leave. Right. And so I remember I was outside with him and I looked at him and I was like, I want to date someone like this. Like it wasn't necessarily him. It was just like, I just want to date somebody like this, like really showing me like my radar, right? He didn't live in town, left. I went through school. I broke up with my boyfriend, moved in with a girlfriend. I was graduating college 6 months later. And I was at the bar and my husband walked up and he was like, I think we know each other. And I was like, oh, we do. Like, here's my number, you know? But it's like, it was similar. It was really similar. It was like at that time, like, no, but it, you have to go through the journey or the places or the things to get where you need to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing with sex prayers is like we weren't ready for each other. I think back to where I was in that cafe, I was not ready. I was still leading a relationship. I was going through my own self-worth things at the time. He was
Yeah.
on his own journey, and then having that, chance reoccurrence, where everything is aligned. And then it's like, okay, amazing. Now we're prepared for each other. And sex prayers is a part of that. It's like for the people that are not in relationship but really want that,
Hmm.
we've developed a blueprint that we take our clients on that get them ready for that. So they can be actually in the resonance. Because we ask people here in Mexico City, we ask our clients, like, okay, yes, you want your dream partner, but really think about this for a second. If they showed up on your doorstep right now, would you be ready? And people are like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as I thought. I
Yeah.
thought I was secure, but now that you said he could be here tomorrow,
Yikes.
I don't know. You know, um,
And
and
yeah,
that's
I am
amazing.
happily
I
married.
love
I've
that
been
place.
married for 8 years. If you ask me that, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like we're
yeah,
in like
still
complete
relevant.
union. I'd be like, I probably could be doing better.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so it's like taking people, like you said, on that journey to being actually ready for that. And
Mm.
he does tantra. He's come from a yogic background. He also came from finance, so he was very plugged into like the quote unquote real world.
Yeah.
Um, but having like his perspective of tantra and oneness and his connection to sensuality with my connection to sensuality and somatic healing and just really working with people's nervous system, that's why the stuff that we're doing works as well as it does, and it's as juicy and playful as it is. It's because we're taking all of it and we're creating an experience where people, it's a joy to find themselves in it. And they're excited because what's on the other end of that is this amazing partnership that then they get to explore beyond what's possible for them.
Yeah.
And
So
through the
like,
very thing that a lot of people feel like, shame or insecurity about. So it's like, wow, if you put your sexuality 100% online and then you're in union with somebody who's also 100% online,
yeah,
the
girl.
power there is wild.
And your guys, for if anybody listening, like just make sure you go look at her Instagram, which we'll tag in the show notes. But like your stuff is so like I was like, wow, that I'm jealous. Like there's so much artistry and like beauty in the photography and the marketing. And I'm like, I don't know. I just like I can tell you've done shadow work, obviously, because of your offers, but then too, just the way that you're showing up online together separately, like it's just so beautiful. And it does get to be that beautiful. It does get to be that amazing and sexual and intimate. And it gets to be like that. The word is just beautiful. Like I'm just seeing this like circle, like it's just unity. It's just beautiful. So yeah, keep showing up, keep doing that. Like that is such needed work. Like I know you know that, but I do have a question. Like, what is your like you have your clients, you have the people that you normally work with, but like obviously in this space we talk about like our avatar or like our person, like who is your ideal client? And you can answer for both because I know you have sex prayers and then mystic mentor. Like who is your ideal client? Like number one, if they signed up with me tomorrow, I would have made it, type thing.
Oh my gosh. I love this question so much because I see it as an engendered. So it really is all encompassing.
Hmm.
And it's like my dream client, I'm actually gonna like feel this in my body.
Yeah,
Just
take
so
a minute. You
just so I
can if
just
you
so I
need
can
to.
let myself get a little bit activated and
Yeah,
turned
yeah,
on by
yeah.
this.
Mm.
Um that's the way it works. Um they are so deeply curious. Like they're so deeply curious by the mystery of life and by the potential of life and the ability to potentially even tap into other realms. like, ooh, they feel a little bit of like excitement and fear in that space. And clients that really truly know that they are meant to create impact, even if they don't know what that is. Like, you don't have to know. You just need to know that's like, I'm meant to be doing big things
Oh my
because
God,
I'm a big
100%.
person.
I talk to
Yeah. So
that
I'm
person all the time. Made for more.
made for more. Like I'm an ascension master, you know. I want people who are like, yes, I want to be a bridge for consciousness for other people by changing who I am in order to bring more people on board. You know, so there's this deep curiosity. There's like this borderline sacred, scary eroticism towards the mystery and towards like actually being able to connect with spirit and connect with God in that way.
Hmm.
And I really want and desire deeply people that just crave feeling juicy and alive in their bodies. I know these are very like, wow, intense adjectives, but that
Yeah.
is it. Like I'm like, yes, I want your curiosity. I want your playfulness. I want your desire for more and for spiritual experiences. Like that is my ideal client. You can show up in any way, shape, or form, look in any type of way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you are my person.
You're in.
Like you are in my field. And the thing about me is like I pulled this card once that said, I was the queen of the outcasts. And I was like, never have I felt so seen by a card in my whole life. Like,
Yes. Oh my God.
I'm bringing people from all different pockets of the world and cultures together for the harmony of the same experience. Naturally, that is going to be outcasts. It's going to be the wild childs and the rebels and the people that start to learn how to trust themselves. That requires rebellion. To become super sovereign,
Hmm.
super autonomous, it requires our rebellion a little bit.
Yeah. It's almost like when you're tuning into that energy of that ideal client, it's actually like what I see is this undercurrent of humanity at large. Like, it's almost like everyone has that. It's about the people that are coming to you, like your ideal client, are like, how ready are they to access it? So it's like your ideal client exists actually in every person, but it's like, where is their barrier to entry? And like, are you ready for your experience? Because I am ready to facilitate, is really what, I see.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, everyone is like I'm definitely like meant to support everyone. And there's that level that's like if you've already experienced curiosity and you're already starting to recognize, wait, I've been under this like low-key spell of powerlessness, and you
Yeah.
start to be like, I want to become more empowered.
Hmm.
That's my entry point. Your desire to
You're in.
want to feel differently, that's it.
Yeah. That's
Like, oh,
amazing.
I'll do that. I'll provide that for you. No problem. Like,
No
let's go on the
problem.
journey.
So, tell the audience a little bit about your offers. Like we're recording this like the end of November 2024. So like what does 2025 look like for you? This is always like so exciting for entrepreneurs because we're like, oh, like it's gonna be my best year yet. Like, we're just ready to go. Because it is like when you do this work, like whatever like capacity you're showing up or like way you're bringing your offer to the collective, like it is about like overwhelmingly, I say, I don't want to talk for all my guests, but it is literally about raising that consciousness, raising that frequency of the collective, like really in whatever container or shape, like we are the vessel that like the program flows through is really what I believe. So like we just get so excited and turned on for our next year because it's like, oh my God, like how many lives am I going to impact? Like what is the change I'm making and like how am I going to bring that in a 3D physical form? So tell us about your 2025 because I know you've already been planning it.
Oh my gosh, I just got the download for it 2 days ago during a cannabis meditation. And I was like, oh my God, of course. Like I saw so clearly what the next year is and a bit beyond that. But yeah, so with Mystic Mentorship and my women's work, I'm moving into more of like a deeper form of psychedelic integration. So really starting to look at how women can integrate plant medicines and psychedelics into their lives to support their healing from
Mhm.
anxiety, stress, overwhelm, trauma, etc., while also deepening that connection to safety in their sensuality and sexuality. So I'm currently like in the developmental stage of creating like a 9-week protocol where I'm
Hey.
working with women and we're working with these medicines and we're also working with archetypes. So different personalities, we can say in a basic way,
Oh,
of the
yeah, I saw
feminine.
that, like with the femininity.
Yeah, with femininity, exploring these
Yeah.
different archetypes of what feminine can and does look like in our psyche, in the collective. So with medicines like cannabis or with like psilocybin microdoses, they're really beautiful and beautifully held by this medicine spaces for women to do this work while reconnecting to like oneness, like the actual core nature. So that's what I'm exploring with women this year. And I'm literally developing my team. I got this vision. I was like, okay, who are my girls? I'm reaching out to them. They're gonna help me build the program and the teaching and like be my students and be like the beta testing of this because I just know that it's going to do such big things. So I'm excited for that for this year.
Hmm.
And then sex prayers, we want to do a singles retreat this year. Last year we did some couples retreats,
Ooh.
and we want to do a singles retreat for the people who are looking for that self intimacy and have the desire to attract and keep their partner. So we want to bring them all together because that's a great like dating pool right there. People who are interested in the same things as you.
Yeah.
And then yeah, take them on a journey of like through tantra and through self intimacy and through sensuality and and sexuality, and give them a space to explore these things together, um, and get them ready for that. So we want to do a retreat, and hopefully we'll be teaching at some other retreats this year. I'm praying into that, and then just keep doing our stuff with couples. Like for the couples that are
Yeah.
already good in their relationship, you don't have to be suffering to invest in a couples retreat. You could be like, no, I just want to learn from these people because they're doing something that we are not. And I would like that for us as
Yeah.
a couple.
Just look at their website, honey. We gotta
Yeah,
go. I'm telling you.
exactly. Oh my gosh. And it's the women. Like, God bless all my ladies out there because the women are the ones who will go to the website and will go, babe, we need to go to this next week. Like, we're going.
Yeah. And I think like there's so much to be said there too of like the woman awakening, the power within. The women are like, no, like actually I want to orgasm and I want to be intimate with you and I want it to be about my pleasure, which has been like culminating in the background for a while, but in the last couple of years has really exploded, which love, everybody should be orgasming with love and unity and joy.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
okay if you're not orgasming, but like, you
but it
should be
would be nice.
orgasming, like, most of the time. The
Yeah.
occasional non-orgasm is like totally okay. Sometimes we
Sure.
don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to,
yeah. No shame, guys. If
like,
you're not orgasming, that's okay. But like Tiffany could probably get you there. Um,
yeah, we
because it
could
is like I'm sure you've met people too, like who have like I have girlfriends who are like, I've literally never had an orgasm without a toy or like with
Mhm.
with a partner. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, sis, no, 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 no. Like, no, there's a better way, And so that is just like the fact that women are like waking up to that fact and like owning their pleasure and owning their sexuality and like especially like you do work with partners. So it's like creating that intimacy with partners so that you can have that relationship. Just beautiful, connecting people
I,
back into their body.
I couldn't. For a long time, I just thought I was the woman. I was like, oh, I'm just never gonna orgasm. Like maybe that's just not me. Maybe I'm one of the types that just
Maybe
can't
that's
for
not
some
me.
reason,
Like, no, girl, it's
And then
it's
at
all
some point,
you.
yeah,
It's
like
like all you do. It's like
I orgasmed
especially
at
you. It's
dancing. It's
so
too
funny.
much.
Like that is like what I tell people. Like when you go through these things in life, like you're telling me a story, and like of course, because when you go through these things in life where you're like, shit, like I that sucked, or like that was horrible, or whatever it was, like and I'm not wanting to wish like bad on anybody, but truly, like that is your deepest lesson. Like your soul already chose its mission before you ever got here, and you were placed in the family, in the place, in the whatever to experience what you needed to experience so that you can become the facilitator for others. So, like, I went through like a horrible burnout, and like I won't even go into the whole story because whatever, it's everywhere now, but it's like I went through that and I thought, oh my God, I hate my life. This is it. And then I
Mhm.
realized like, oh, actually I had to go to the depths of that pain to now bring my offering to the collective, to bring like my mentorship and expertise to the collective. So it's like, of course you had trouble orgasming. Of course you thought, oh, I guess I'm just somebody who doesn't orgasm. And now you're like an intimacy mentor. Like that is,
Yeah.
of course, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's those journeys that allow us to just like I'm not here to teach, I would say. Like I do, but I don't think I'm necessarily meant to teach so much as I'm like, I have something bursting inside of me that I know helps. Take it or leave it. Try it on or
Yeah, yeah,
don't,
yeah.
you
It's
know,
fine.
but like I have it and that's what I have to offer you. That is what life has taught me. And I've learned so many things the hard way. And that's by design, apparently, according to my human design. And and even just knowing that allows me to kind of soften into the lessons a bit more. That's like I'm willing to go through it. So when I take my clients on a journey, they're getting 8 years condensed into a 9 week package, and they're accelerating and they are like quantum leaping because I don't need people to suffer. I don't need them to suffer through that whole experience.
Yeah. I've already done it, so you don't have to.
Yeah. That is Christ
Exactly.
consciousness, it's like I went through the thing so I could like give you the spirit of the
Yeah.
lesson.
100%. All right, where can people find you? What's the easiest connect? Like what platform are you most active on, or what platforms are you on in general so people can find you? How can they work with you and develop that intimacy?
Yeah, please come find me on my social media. I'm an Instagram girly, so at Mystic Mentorship. I really like to look at my Instagram as art. So thank you for saying that it was beautiful because I'm trying to find just ways to make it beautiful and not so
It is so
so
beautiful.
thank you. So thank you
Like
for
I'll never be that person, which is fine. It's not me, but I do look at like your Instagram. I'm like, boy, that's nice. It
Oh,
is. It's so nice.
that's my Gemini coming out. That's like, here's all my personalities, and I hope you think they're cute and
They
let's be
are.
friends. Yeah,
They're amazing.
there's something for everybody in there. Um, and then my website is like mysticmentorship.com. You can see the offers that I currently have or like events that are coming up if I'm in your city or if you're in my city, if you're in Mexico City. And also our sex prayers website, which is sexprayers.online. And you can find our podcast episodes in there. They're amazing, not because I think that I'm amazing, but because the quality of things that we're talking about is so necessary and needed in terms of communication and how we even define sex with our partner. And there's resources that we have available for free. Please like tap into those and start using
Yeah.
those. Or if you have questions, ask us about them. We love talking about the things that we've developed because like we say that like God in spirit really wants you in your highest pleasure. And we want that for you too, because we know
Yeah.
what that's like.
That's what we're
So
doing.
just trying to
That's
share the goodness.
Yeah, that's the whole business. Okay, awesome. I'll have all of that like tagged in the show notes and linked below wherever this is at. If you're listening to this on YouTube or Spirit Channel or the Spotify, Apple, wherever it is, I'll link everything there. But Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the Vortex and talking about your Vortex. We
That
love
was a
hearing.
vortex.
I know. Wait to say everybody has a vortex. Like, I want to know what yours is. So yours is absolutely amazing. I can't wait for people to connect with you and really just deepen that relationship with self, ultimately with self and with God. So beautiful, beautiful. Thank you and have a beautiful day,
Thank you
everybody. Thanks
so
for
much.
listening.